Great. I think we shall start. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in on a Saturday morning. And first of all, I'd like to thank the school team for giving us this opportunity to present in front of all the parents. I think thanks to Uma ma'am, thanks to Vinil and his entire team. The objective of today's webinar is basically we're going to talk about the SATs. We're going to talk about the ACTs. All the parents must have received the mail saying that, we have associated with Indus International School and we'll be helping all the students to prep for their SATs and ACT exams. And the entire objective of today's webinar is because there were a lot of parents who needed some more clarity what these tests are, who should write it, when should they write it, should they write it, not they write it, what is test blind, what is test optional. There were a lot of confusion, which some of the parents had. And, we took the permission from the school to present this webinar to you guys. And the idea is to make sure that we are able to clarify all these questions. The format of this presentation is pretty straightforward. For the first 25-30 minutes, I'm going to present what SATs are, what ACTs are, who conducts it, when they happen, when should you write it, and things like that. If you have any question during the presentation, please feel free to put it under the chat section. And once we are done with the presentation, we'll take each and every question. However, at the end, we will open the session for Q&As, and you feel free to ask any question at the end as well, right? With that, let me start with the presentation. So yeah, this is going to be our today's agenda. So we'll talk about we'll try and understand the standardized tests, which is SATs and ACTs. What is the importance of these exams for grade 9 to grade 12 students? What is the timeline for this exam with regards to application planning? What are the countries that accept SATs and ACTs? What are the latest changes which are happening in SATs? I know there are students and parents from grade 9, 10th, and 11th. And I think it's very, very critical for grade 9th and 10th parents, and also for the 11th parents to understand that SAT is undergoing some changes starting March 2023. So I've incorporated one slide on that as well, just for you to understand what are these changes. And then at the end, we will also talk about the ReWiser recommended timeline and pedagogy that we would follow, and how we are going to deliver this in association with the school, how our program would be structured. And if in case you have any question with regards to the program, we can answer those queries as well. So that's what we are going to cover in today's webinar. Just a quick introduction about the company. So ReWiser is a high school support company which assists students worldwide to achieve their high school academic goals. We predominantly cater to students from grade 9 to grade 12. And our area of expertise, we largely deal into two verticals. The first one is test prep, where we help students with SATs, ACTs, and AP exams. And then the other vertical is in the academic tutoring space. Today's agenda is only about SAT, ACTs, and Psat exam. This is what we are going to talk about. We've been in the market for almost about 6 years now. We've catered to more than 4,000 odd families. We've catered to almost about 15 plus cities across India and about 6 plus countries across the globe. That's who we are and what we stand for. Now with that, let me deep dive into these exams. And before I talk about these exams, right, let me take a quick 1 minute to help you understand why should you write these exams, right? If you look at the college application, specifically if you're looking to go abroad and predominantly the US, you basically need three things that we are looking at, right? So one of them is the test prep, which is your SATs, ACTs, and AP exam that you plan to write. These are the exam that you wish to write if you want to pursue undergrad abroad. And there are different geographies for which you need different exams, and we can talk about those exams today. And then the second vertical or the second important pillar is your academics, right? So academics of grade 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, that is very, very critical for you to apply to the college. And then the third pillar of this is your profile, your overall profile, right? So all these three things put together is help you to apply to the colleges abroad. And predominantly, as I said, we are talking about the US today. Right? To talk about the SAT, ACT, these are the standardized tests which are needed by most of the US colleges. Most of the 4-year colleges require you to submit your SAT or the ACT score. You don't have to do both. They basically help to assess what is your preparedness level for the college level course, right? They largely contains two sections, predominantly two major sections. One of them is maths and another one is English. And under English, it's further divided into reading and writing. They're mandatory by most of the US colleges. However, at the same time, there are a couple of other geographies wherein you can also submit these scores. And to name some, you can submit these scores in Singapore. There are universities in India which accept SAT scores now. You can also submit it in Canada, Australia, US, So these are few other geographies apart from US where you can submit your SATs or the ACT scores. Now, a lot of people have this confusion, and let me try and clarify those two terms here. There's something called test optional, and then there is something called test blind, right? So test blind is a term. If a college says that we are test blind, that means they will not look at your SAT or ACT score, even if you submit it. That is what the test blind means. And then there is a second term, which is called test optional, right? Now, what is test optional? So if a college says that we are test optional, that means if in case you have done the SAT, please submit your score. If you have not done the SAT, you can skip to send the score. However, if a college is test blind, it's okay not to submit it. So all the UCs colleges are test blind, and they've been test blind for years now. So you don't have to submit your SAT score there. However, if it's a test optional, it's generally recommended and advised for you to submit your SAT score, even if it is test optional. The reason being, a lot of colleges became test optional during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, there were a lot of countries, not India, where SATs could not, the college board, the organization which conduct the SAT, could not conduct the SAT exam. And hence, to make sure that they're giving fair chance to students across the globe, they made it test optional. However, on the other hand, if you look at India, in the last 2 years, there was only 2 SATs which got cancelled in the last 2.5 years, right? So if you compare yourself with all the other students, let's say if a college gets 10 applications from India, and out of which 8 have submitted the SAT scores and 2 have not submitted the SAT scores, you are at a disadvantage, because then you have to justify why did you not do the SAT, or why have you not submitted your SAT score. Hence, it's always advisable and recommended to submit the SAT or the ACT scores for the colleges which says they are test optional, and this is the reason for it, right? So I hope I was able to clear this, a bigger myth about what is test optional, what is test blind, should be submitted or not. Now, having understand that, let's try and deep dive into these 2 exams, and let's try and understand what these 2 exams are, and do I need to write both, or should I write one, right? So SAT is an exam which is conducted by an organization called College Board. On the other hand, you have ACT, which is conducted by an organization called act.org. SAT happens 5 times a year, which is in the month of March, May, August, October, and December. So for this year, we have October and December attempts which are still left. ACT, on the other hand, happens 7 times a year, which is in the month of Feb, April, June, July, September, October, and December. The other major difference, SAT is a pen and paper test for which you have to go to a school, register it, and then write it. ACT, on the other hand, is an online exam, though you still have to go to the center and write it, but it happens over the system and it's online. SAT is a 3-hour long exam. ACT, on the other hand, is a 3-hour, 40-minute long test. Now, in terms of the sections that you have in the SAT, there are 4 major sections. The first one is the reading section, which is nothing but the reading comprehension section, where you have to read the passages and then answer the questions, right? So you basically have been given 5 different passages. Every passage will have about 10 to 12 questions, and you have to read through the passage and then answer the question. You have a total of 65 minutes, and you have a total of 52 questions to solve the reading section. Then the next section that you have is the writing section, which is predominantly the grammar section, where again they would underline the few errors and you have to rectify those errors. That is what is entailed in the writing section. There are a total of 44 questions, and you have 35 minutes to solve these 44 questions. So you have a less than minute per question to solve these writing section questions. Then the third section that you have is the maths without the calculator, wherein you have a total of 20 questions, and you have a total of 25 minutes to solve these 20 questions. Out of these 20 questions, you have a 15 questions which are MCQ, which are multiple choice questions. The remaining 5 questions are grid and response questions, where you have to write down your answer. You have to calculate, find out the answer, and then put in the answers in the bubble sheet provided. And then the last section that you have here is the maths with calculator section, wherein you have a total of 38 questions, and you have 55 minutes to solve these questions. So you have roughly about 1.5 minutes per question. And if you look at it here, you have 30 questions, which are multiple choice questions, and you have another 8 questions, which are free grid and response question, wherein you have to feed in your answer in this, right? On the contrary, if you look at ACT, there are 5 sections, out of which one of them is an optional section. So the first section that you encounter in ACT is an English section, which is very similar to the writing section of ACT. So that basically tests your grammar skills. You have a total of 45 minutes and you have a total of 75 questions to solve in this 45 minutes, right? So if you look at it, you have lot less time here and lot more number of questions to solve. Similarly, the second section in the ACT is the math section. And the important part is there is only one math section where you are allowed to use the calculator as well. So in ACT, you can use the calculator all throughout the exam. And you have a total of 60 questions and you have a total of 60 minutes to solve these questions. That means you have 1 minute per question as opposed to 1.5 minutes per question in SAT, right? So that's another difference. So on the ACT, you have more number of questions and you have less time to solve it. However, the difficulty level of questions that you would encounter in ACT is much lower as opposed to what you will encounter in SAT. So that becomes an important parameter when you're deciding whether a child should write an SAT or an ACT. If a child is okay with the time pressure, but they are preferring slightly easier question, then ACT might be a better choice. However, if you are somebody who's not comfortable with the time pressure and needs more time and okay to solve difficult question, then SAT might be a better option, right? So that's one of the reasons why one should prefer an SAT over an ACT or vice versa. Then the third section in ACT is the reading section, which is the reading comprehension section, similar to the SAT section. So you have a total of 40 questions and you have about 35 minutes to solve this, right? So that is what you have in the reading comprehension section. The fourth section, which is an important section because a lot of people have a confusion around this section, is the science section. Now, a lot of parents come back and say, hey, you know what, my child wants to apply for economics. So do I still do an ACT because there's a science section there, right? So please note the science section here, there is no science involved here. It's predominantly a reading section. So you are reading a science-based passages and you are answering the question. That is what the science section predominantly entails, right? So you don't really have to have the science knowledge. However, if you have the background, it will always help because you probably might have seen those passages in the past. So it might become easier for you to solve it. However, even if you have not seen it, it's still okay. You could always consider it like an unseen passages and solve it, right? So in the science section, again, you have a total of 35 minutes and you have a total of 40 questions that you need to solve in the 35 minutes. And all of them are MCQ based questions. The last section, which is the fifth section in ACT, is an essay component, which is an optional essay component. If you prefer to write it, you can do it. If you want to skip it, you can skip it. If you would have asked in a year back, I would have said, please go ahead and write the essay as well. However, now I don't recommend writing the essay because 1 year back, even SAT used to had an optional essay component. So it was a apple to apple comparison if you're writing an SAT or an ACT. However, now it's only in the ACT that you have an essay component. So you can skip the optional essay component is what my recommendation would be at this point of time, right? Now, these are the major differences in terms of, if you look at the two sections, one is the speed. I think you have to be really, really quick in terms of ACT. You have less time in ACT. You're allowed to use the calculator all throughout the ACT section, unlike SAT where you cannot, wherein you have a specific section where you cannot use the calculator in maths. The fourth difference would be on the ACT, the passages or the vocabulary is slightly easier as opposed to what you would encounter on the SAT. The fifth difference is, if you have noticed, in SAT, you have two sections of English and two of maths. However, in ACT, if you look at it closely, there's only one math section and there are 3 English sections, right? So that's also another thing to consider in mind, whether the child is good at English or the child is good at maths. And based on that, you could take a call. However, these are, I mean, honestly speaking, these are very, very high level ideas that you get based on this. It will be difficult to decide whether your child should do an SAT or an ACT. And hence at ReWiser, our philosophy has been that, you should write a diagnostic test. The child should attempt a diagnostic, one for SAT, one for ACT. And based on the diagnostic, the child should decide which one are they more comfortable with. Is it an SAT or an ACT? And then take a call and then start preparing for that particular exam. That would be our recommendation at this point of time. Now coming to scoring, SAT is scored out of 1600 points. And out of this 1600, 800 is for English, which is your reading and writing. So 400 for reading, 400 for writing. And another 800 is for maths. So it's 50-50 evenly distributed amongst English and maths. On the other hand, if you look at ACT, ACT is out of 36 points. And out of this 36 points, every section that you have, which is English, math, reading, and science, you get a score out of 36 points. And then the average of that is found out, right? That becomes your final ACT score, right? Now, just to give you a clear indicator in terms of how do the two scores comparable to each other. If you look at SAT, 1500 out of 1600 is in 99th percentile. That means the child is in the top 1 percentile bracket. Similarly, if you get a 34 out of 36, the child is in top 1 percentile bracket again. That means the child has achieved 99th percentile, right? So 1500 is equivalent to 34 in ACT, right? So that's how the conversion table sort of works between the SAT and the ACT, right? With that, let me move on to the next thing, which is the Psat. And since there are a lot of 9th graders as well, and there are 11th graders as well, it's important for us to discuss this exam also. Now, Psat is nothing but more like a preliminary or a practice SAT to say so, right? Now, this is largely for you to figure out where the child is at that particular time among their peers, right? So you write these PSAT, you could write it in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, even in grade 11, but there are certain specific reason why you should write it in grade 11, and we'll talk about that as well, right? But one of the important thing to note about Psat is it happens only once a year, right? And you generally get the notification by the school itself saying that the Psat is happening. Would you like to register? And then you can write the Psat in the school premise itself. And I know Indus is a host school also, so you don't even have to go anywhere else. You will get to write the test in the school premise itself. Now, if you see, there's an other term that I've mentioned here called Nmsqt, and this is an important term to understand here. There might be few OCI card holder students, right? It's a few students who have US passport, right? Now, for those students, if you are in grade 11th and you are a US citizen, you should still write the PSAT in grade 11th, because that's also known as Nmsqt, which is nothing but National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So there is a certain scholarship which is being assigned by the college board for certain set of students who are US citizens and who will score above a certain score. But that's applicable only if you write it in grade 11. Hence, when you're writing in 9th and 10th, it's predominantly for you to assess yourself and figure out where you stand. However, when you're writing it in grade 11, the objective is also to look at Nmsqt, which is National Merit Scholarship Test, right? Now, in terms of tests, how are these two tests different from each other? Now, Psat for me is like a subset of SAT. That's how I consider it. And you will probably realize it looking at the sections as well. They have all the same sections, which is reading, writing, maths no calculator, maths calculator. The only difference would be they will have less number of questions and less time to solve those questions. For example, if you look at reading, in SAT, we had 52 questions, 65 minutes. In Psat, we have 47 questions and you have 16 minutes to solve these questions. So you have less time and less number of questions. On the writing, we have same 44 questions, 35 minutes at both the places. Maths no calculator, for SAT, we have 20 questions in 25 minutes. In Psat, we had 17 questions in 25 minutes. Similarly, in maths calculator section, again, in SAT, we had 38 questions on 55 minutes. However, in Psat, we have 31 questions, which has to be answered in 45 minutes. So that's how the paper is different. And obviously the difficulty level of Psat would be slightly easier than the SAT. And there are one or two concepts which are being eliminated specifically in the maths section because students who are in grade 8th and 9th may not have covered those topics as opposed to when they're writing the SAT, right? So that's another difference in terms of curriculum wise. Now coming to the scoring, are they different? Yes, they are slightly different. As I said, SAT is out of 1600 points. You have 800 in English and 800 for maths. However, in PSAT, it's out of 1520. 1520 is the maximum score that you can get. And for English, you can get maximum of 760. And for maths, you can get a maximum of 760. So that's the maximum that you can achieve in the Psat. And that's how the two are different in terms of the scoring perspective. Yeah, I hope that answers the question about the Psat and SAT. With that, let me try and jump onto the next part, which is the latest changes which are happening in SAT. And this is very, very critical for all the students, for all the parents, where the kids are in grade 9th and 10th, and specifically grade 11 student who are planning to write the SAT this year. Starting March 2023, which is the next year, SAT is changing completely. And the changes which are happening are as follows. So one of the change which is happening is I just explained to you the test is currently 3-hour long test. Now this will get reduced to 2-hour long test. Instead of 4 sections, they will have only 2 sections. However, the 2 sections remains the same, English and maths. Now within English itself, they have reading and writing. So instead of keeping them separate, they have just clubbed it together. So that's not a bigger change, to be very honest. Also, if you look at the content for English and maths, it has remained the same. So there's not much change in terms of the concept. However, one of the important change which is happening specifically in English. So as of now, if you remember in reading, I told you there'll be one passage and you will have about 10 to 11 questions that you will have to answer. However, with the new SAT format, you will have one para, one question, one para, one question. So you will have one para per question rather than one passage with 10 questions, right? And there are pros and cons to it. I think the pro is if in case you didn't like one entire passage, generally students kind of get demotivated because they have to solve 10 questions related to it. However, that will not be the case now because you will only have one para per question, right? So if you don't understand that para, you're not losing out on 10 questions, you're just losing out on one question. So I think that's a positive. However, on the other hand, if you look at the negative, earlier the students were only going through 5 passages in that 65 minutes. However, now they will have to go through a lot of different paras, right? So there's a lot of context switching that they will have to do. So I think there are pros and cons and time will tell how things will change. However, in terms of the scoring, they have not changed anything. SAT will continue to be out of 1600 points, out of which English is 800 and math is 800. So that still remains the same. In terms of math, one of the major change which is happening, if you had noticed earlier, there was a math with calculator, no calculator section. However, now they have said that they will have maths with the calculator, which is a welcome news for all the IB students because they're used to of using the calculator and they can use the calculator all throughout the section. So I think that's a big positive for all the students. Students will have more time per question. And again, that's a welcome change. So they want to give more time per question to the student, which also means the question might become slightly more trickier because they are giving slightly more time as well. The test will be online and will be taken on a laptop or a tablet. This is again a new change. So SAT, which is a pen and paper test as of today, will become an online test starting March 2023. Though you will still have to go to the center and write this exam, just like the ACT, but it will happen online. The other difference between the SAT would be you can also carry your own laptop or your tablet and do the exam in your own machine, rather than relying on the machine which are present at the center, which is again a welcome change because we have had instances in the past where students have struggled with the machine which are provided by the center itself. So I think that's another welcome change. They're also saying the testing app would save student progress while they're working, which is again great because in the past you've seen there are instances where someone's system gets shut down, but the timing is still going. So they are at a loss. However, they're saying in this case, the child progress will get saved and the timer will stop there itself. Use of calculator throughout the math section, I've already told that. And one of the important changes which is happening, the test will be adaptive in nature. Now, what do we mean by that? The test is going to be section-wise adaptive. So they will have 2 modules. The first module will have English and maths. The second module will have English and maths. The module 1 questions would be same for all of us, all the students who are writing the exam. However, depending on your performance in module 1 test, they will decide the level of question that you should be getting in module 2. If you have done great in module 1, you'll get a slightly difficult question. If you're not done well in module 1, then you might get a slightly easier set of questions. So the exam is going to be adaptive in nature and it is sectional adaptive, not question-wise adaptive. So that's another change which is happening. And since the test is happening online, the scores will be released much sooner. So as of now, so there was an exam, SAT exam, which happened last Saturday. So the scores will be released in about 12 to 15 days, in about 2 weeks. However, once it becomes online, the scores are expected to be out in about 2 to 3 days max. And that's how it happens in ACT as well. They're also planning to increase the number of frequency of SAT exams. So that's again a welcome change because right now there are 5 options, but they're planning to come with 7 options just like ACT. So you'll have more chances to write the SAT exam. So I think these are the major changes which are happening starting March 2023 for the SAT. And this is happening across the globe. However, in US, they plan to do these changes in 2024. So we are sort of the guinea pig at this point of time on which this experiment would run for a year. And then if everything is successful in 2024, they will change this in US as well. So in US, if you're writing the exam, even in 2023, it will still be a pen and paper test. So that's another information to note. Great. So with that, we have on a high level covered everything about these three important exams, which are SATs, ACTs, and APs. Now let's try and understand the testing timelines for this, right? And I think this is really, really important. As I was talking to you, I think one of the important things that happens in this 4 years, grade 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, there are three main pillars that we talk about. One of them is academics, which is super critical. Your grades in 9, 10th, 11th, and your 12th is super critical to apply to college. Second is your test prep, standardized test prep, which is your SATs, ACTs, and APs. And the third part is your profile building. So if you see here, this is anyways happening all across. So, for the 4 years, you will be doing your profile development work, your internship, research work, and everything else. And school is helping you out with all those activities. The second part that we are going to talk about today, academics is something that you have to take care of. The school is again working with you on that. And you have to make sure you get whatever best you can in the time that you have. The third part, which is the test prep, that is what we are trying to discuss here in terms of timelines. Now, in grade 9th, I think it's a good time to write your Psat and understand where do you stand, right? Are you good at English? Are you good in maths? What are your weak areas? What are your strengths? What are the areas where you need more support and help, right? I think it's important to figure that out while you're in grade 9. Then you move to grade 10. In grade 10, you can again write your Psat, because if in case you're not done in 9th, it's important to write it in 10th to understand where you are and get your strengths and weaknesses in place. At the same time, it's very, very important for you to start writing your diagnostic test. Write one diagnostic test for SAT, one for ACT. If you're very sure which exam you want to write, you can stick to one. However, if you're open about both, then you should write both SAT and ACT diagnostic tests. And you should start your prep for your exam, which is for your SAT or an ACT, because that's an important factor again. If you start early, you should ideally be able to write your SAT or your ACT before your board exams, before your final exams in grade 10. That means if you start well ahead of time, ideally March of the year when you're writing your grade 10 is a good time to do your first attempt of SAT, because May is when you're writing your exams, your IB exams. So March would be a good time for you to do your first attempt. If you get a great score, great, you stop there. If in case by chance you don't get the desired score, then you write your IB exams, and post that in the month of August, you write your next attempt of SAT, and by that time you would be done. So before your 11th grade even start, you would have finished your SAT. That's the ideal place to be in, because 11th and 12th is a lot more time intensive. When you look at the IB curriculum, IBDP is a lot more time demanding, and hence it's important if you can finish your SAT prep well ahead of time. If you're in grade 11, then there are certain other things that you need to look at, which is obviously write Psat. If you're a US citizen, we have already discussed that acts as an Nmsqt, write SAT, ACT. If you have not done it, I think it's high priority that you write your SAT as soon as possible. And obviously, if you're writing SAT, you have to do your prep, and I'm hoping you've already started your prep and you're starting your prep now. And for all the students who are starting the prep with ReWiser now, all these students, we are targeting the March of 2023 is going to be their first attempt. That is the target that we are looking at right now, right? If there are a few students who are ready by December, we might ask them to go ahead and write it. However, our main objective would be to allow them to write it in March 2023. That is what we are looking at this point of time. However, for grade 11, I think it's super, and for grade 10, I think it's super critical that you start your prep as soon as possible. For grade 10, because as I said, grade 11 requires a lot of time commitment. You would want to finish it before you get into grade 11. For grade 11, you don't have any other right now. If you're planning to apply to any of these countries, you should have these scores in place. At the same time, there's another exam called AP, which we have not discussed in today, which is called Advanced Placement Exam, and it's a different exam altogether. If in case you plan to write that, then it's a good time for you to start preparing for AP exams as well, right? When you go to grade 12th, there are some students who probably would have missed the SAT timeline in grade 11. They should finish it at the earliest possible, but you have to finish it by latest by October of your grade 12, because by the time your college application process will start, right? So it will require a lot of time to do your college application work, and hence you cannot keep anything else apart from college application in grade 12, right? And then you apply to the colleges and wait for the results, and finally you go to the college. So that's how the entire timeline looks like. This is a generic timeline. We are more than happy to sit individually one-on-one with each and every parent if in case we have to suggest when they should be doing the SAT, AST, AP exams and things like that. We are more than happy to sit with you guys one-on-one, provide a free consultation session to every parent and the child, and help you chalk out a plan for you with regards to the test prep, right? If that helps. Now with that, as I've mentioned in the past, that I'm gonna take up one slide where I'll also talk about, so a lot of parents come back and say, hey, you know, we're looking at US, but you know, pandemic has taught us one thing, that you cannot not have plan B, right? So if in case you have done your SAT score, don't worry. Even in India, there are almost about 40 plus universities which have started accepting SAT scores. And some of them are really, really famous ones. Some of the lists are already mentioned here. There's Ashoka University, Azim Premji, Flame, Kriya, Manav Rachna, Plaksha, Srinathar, Shrishti, SRM. So these are few of the universities which have already started accepting SAT scores for their college admission. So even if you've done an SAT and let's say towards the end, you decide not to apply to abroad, maybe US or Singapore or Canada, you can still use these scores to apply to Indian universities. And hence writing an SAT does not really hamper anything. It only helps you in the admission process, even in India. Here is the link, international.collegeboard.org, where you can go and figure out the list of all the other universities which are also accepting the SAT scores for college admissions, if you would like to do that. With that, I think we are in the last segment where I want to talk about how ReWiser as a company. So we have collaborated with the school and we are helping all the students, and you must have received the mail about that as well already. We've already received, we've already filled up one batch. We are working with the second batch now. The registrations are open. So all the students who are in hostels, I think, so we are going to the hostels and we have decided the day. So it's on Fridays and Saturdays at specific time when we are going to deliver these classes live face-to-face in the hostel premise itself. So we are providing the opportunity to do all the grade 9, 10th, 11th student. As of now, we are registering only 10th and 11th. For grade 9 student, we'll be starting a couple of months later and we will keep you posted on that. However, for grade 10th and 11th, we have opened the registration. We have already filled the first batch. We have started opening for the second batch, and we are starting the batch starting next Friday, the coming Friday. So if in case you are interested, we would be dropping a link in the chat section, a registration form section. You can fill up that form. We will reach out to you and we'll do all the closing activities for it. You must have already received the mail. But for you to understand how we are going to tackle this, we're talking about the diagnostic test. So we have already visited the school premise. We have done the test. We have given the SAT diagnostic to all the students. And we have also given the detailed report to these students. However, there are some students who could not do these exams. The school has also shared an online test platform link to all the students and the parents. They can do this at home whenever they're free, today, tomorrow, whenever they get time, and finish off this exam. The moment they're done with the exam, they get a detailed report in terms of what areas they've done well, what areas they need to work upon and everything. So it's a very detailed report that comes out. Even after that, if you'd like to talk to us, feel free to call us and set up a consultation session, and we are happy to walk you through these reports. That happens in phase 0, which is already done. Then the phase 1, which is the classes. So we will be going to the schools, as I said, on these Fridays and Saturdays. Every session would be a 2-hour-long class, and we will have roughly about 40 to 50 hours of classes, wherein we will be covering reading, writing, and the maths component. And after every session the student does, they will have equal amount of assignments. So if they're doing a 2-hour class, they will have 2 hours of assignments that they need to do back at the hostel during the week itself. So if you're doing 4 hours of class, they have another 4 hours of assignment work that they need to finish. And all of these assignments would be tracked through something called a score tracker. And once that is done, they also have unlimited access to the online platform. So on this online platform, if in case they miss any session, we also have recorded sessions which are already available on our platform. So if by chance they missed any class because they're not well or for any reason, they could also go back and look at these concept videos, which we have already provided with them on the online platform, which is readily available 24/7 at all the time, which is included in the course itself. Once this is done, we will move to phase 2, which is largely about the sectional test. And this is the point where a student would be doing at least about 10 plus sectional tests for reading, writing, and maths. This, again, they would be doing in combination of at the hostel and in class itself. And the faculty would be clarifying all their doubts when they're coming for the session. So faculty will be solving these test papers live with the students to help them understand what is the best strategy to solve these questions. So that is what will happen in phase 2. Once that gets over, we move to phase 3, which is largely about the mock test, where every student would be writing about 10 plus mock tests, like in the actual environment. They will sitting for 3 hours and do a full test. After every full test, you will get a detailed report analysis saying what are the areas you have done well, what areas you need to improve. So everything would be given there. And at the end, all these papers that they will do, they will also get a faculty-led analysis of the mistakes. So in the group, we will have the discussion about the paper, where faculty will walk them through the paper in terms of what is the right approach in solving the paper. So that's the 4-phase approach that we follow at ReWiser, which is the diagnostic, classroom training, sectional test, and full-length mock test, right? And this is what we are going to follow when we are going to the school. For all the students who are not boarders, we at ReWiser, we also run the same program outside of school as well. So for all the students who are not able to go to the hostels and who are not, not staying in hostels, they can directly call us and they can also enroll with us. We already have different batches which are already running where the students have already enrolled with us. You can also enroll with us and you would be given the same discounted pricing which we have given to the students who are in the hostels as well. So there's a discounted pricing for all the Indus students, which we and school have agreed upon. So all of you will get that discounted pricing. So if you're reaching out to us, please ask for that discounted pricing. You will be, your child can get that in, get enrolled at that pricing, even outside of the school. So there are 2 ways. If you are in hostels, you can enroll with the program, which is live face-to-face program. If you're not in the hostel, if you're staying in Bangalore and your kid doesn't stay in hostel, then the child can directly sign up with us. And there are online programs, the exact same program, which is also working online at the same pricing. It's just that it will not be with the other Indus student, it will be with other batches that we run. And we can figure out more time flexibility there because there are different time options which are available. There are different modules that we offer. There is SCT full training, which I've just talked about. There's classroom assignment, sectional test, full length test, and everything. Then there's something called STHE study plan. There are few students who don't need everything. They only need study plan. They only need material from us. So there is that option as well. There is STHE Lite, wherein students don't need that. They only need the practice test. So we also have that option for the students if they just need that, right? So there are different options, permutation combination that can be worked upon in terms of the modules. With that, I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to. And now I would like to, so these are the 2 numbers you can note down, maybe post the webinar. If you wish to have any more questions, feel free to call on these numbers. We'll be more than happy to answer all your queries. At the same time, in the chat section, we will drop the registration link, which you can fill up. And once you fill up the registration link, we'll get your number and we will probably call you back and get the details done, or the registration formalities done. Okay, great. So I have a couple of questions already in the chat section, which I can start taking up. And if in case you have more questions, please feel free to put in those questions as well. I have a question from Ms. Beena. My son is in grade 9. If he decides to take the Psat in October this year, then will it be pen and paper format or online? It's a pen and paper format, Beena. PSAT is a pen and paper, so they haven't announced any change in the Psat format yet. We are hoping that they will announce, but that's going to be only next year. This year, it's going to be a pen and paper test. Dr. M.B. Patil, what about classes for day boarders on Saturday? Right, Mr. Patil, I think for those, that is what we need to sort of, as I said, so we also run programs which are outside of the school. So these students can sign up for those programs. And we have a separate schedule for those students, right? So, we will reach out to you from our side. We will talk to you and give you different options on which the student can sign up. For all the students who are day boarders and who are not staying in hostel, they don't have to go back to the hostel. If you stay closer to the hostel, then you can obviously sign up with the same program and go to the hostels and do it. Otherwise, you can sign up for the online program that we are also running for all the other students across India and across the globe. Ankur Rastogi, is there option of online class for day boarders? That's right, sir. That's what. So we have an option for online class for day scholars. We have noted down your name, Mr. Ankur Rastogi. We'll reach out to you. There are different options. We have almost about 5 different batch options that the child can opt for when you're a day scholar, because you're not doing it in the hostel premise, right? So there are different schedules that we are following for those. So we will reach out to you, Mr. Ankur. Otherwise, you can reach out to any of these two numbers which are given at the bottom. Mr. Sunil, can day boarders join in person at school along with boarders? Definitely, sir. If in case you stay close to school and you feel there is a possibility for these students to travel to the hostel, they can sign up with the day, with the hostlers. The day boarders can sign up with the boarders. So yes, so it is definitely allowed. SAT or ACT, which is better? Great question, sir. If you ask me, if you're looking US as a geography, both are equally acceptable. There is no difference at all, right? No college will differentiate you based on SAT or ACT. I've had students who have done SAT and gone to Ivy Leagues, like Princeton's of the world, Stanford of the world as well. And I've had students who have written ACT and gone to colleges like MITs and Dartmouth and other colleges as well. So it doesn't really matter whether you do an SAT or an ACT, you have to just do well. However, if in case you're also looking at other geographies like India does not accept ACT scores. All the colleges in India which are accepting like those lists that I've shown you, they only accept SAT scores. So if you also want to keep other options open, then SAT might be a preference. Otherwise, if you're very sure about the US as a geography, then it does not really matter whether it's SAT or ACT. You just have to figure out which is the test which child can do better. That's it. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Patel. I have another question from Meenakshi. If we have missed the diagnostic test for Psat, when can we take it next? Ms. Meenakshi, we can provide you the link. As I said, the numbers are there at the bottom. Just drop them a message and we'll send you the link. You can write these diagnostic tests at any point of time. So don't worry about that. From our side, this diagnostic is open all throughout the year. Ms. Devi, Ravi, there's another. Is there any material to refer for Psat prep? Definitely, Ms. Devi. You can go to Khan Academy. That's a free resource which you can refer for Psat prep. You can also go to the College Board website. They give about 7 tests which are available on the website for the Psat. So the student can go through these tests and all of these are free resources. I hope that answers. Another question from Mr. Ankur. Does all US university accept SAT and ACT scores? Yes, Mr. Ankur. As I said, excluding the test blind university, all the university will accept SAT or ACT score. There is not even a single university which will say submit only one score. They will submit either of you can submit either of the scores. Another question from Yasmin. Can you explain how the super score for SAT works and how many attempts is considered acceptable? Great question, Yasmin. Okay, so what is super score? Let me try and help you understand. Now, let's say if a student has done 2 attempts, one in October, one in December, and you got a certain score in October and certain score in December. So what is super score? Super scoring means you can take the best from the 2. So that means I can take my English from October and I can take my maths from December and I can find my overall score. That becomes a super scoring. You get what I'm saying, right? So you are allowed to take the best from the 2. So for example, in October, you've done better in English. So you'll take the English. In December, you've done better in maths. So you'll take the maths and you will submit your super score. That is called super score. That's how the super score works. But remember, not all universities allow you to do super scoring. There are only limited universities which will give you an option to do this super scoring. So that's one. The another question, how many attempts is considered acceptable? We generally recommend 2 attempts as an acceptable attempt. However, there are students in the past. I mean, I've had one student in the last year who actually did thrice. And last time he got a 1570. And he's currently studying in Cornell. So, there is no right and wrong answer about it. But 2 is an ideal attempt. 3, nothing more than 3 for sure, right? That's the max. But 2 is an ideal number of attempts that you should be doing. I hope that answers the question. Next, I have missed the webinar due to busy schedule. Can we get the recording? Great, thanks, Prakriti. Yes, we have already done the recording. We'll be sharing these recordings. So we'll be sending it out to the school and school will be sending out mail to each and every one of you. So you will get the recording through the same. For the people who have registered for the webinar, we have your email IDs and we will be also sending you the, if in case you have the registration link, please fill up the registration link for the webinar and we will be sending out the mailer as well by end of the day today itself with the recording. So you can go through this recording. I have another question from Ms. Rajani. What is validity time of SAT score and what is the advantage of attempting Psat? Great question. SAT scores are valid for 5 years. So you don't have to worry about that. What is the advantage of attempting Psat? As I said, Psat you'd largely do because you want to understand where you are at this point of time. I think for more to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Secondly, some of the students write Psat because there are some summer schools in US which ask for Psat scores. So if you've done well in the Psat, you have a better chance to get into a summer school program as well. So some of the students write it because of the summer schools as well. But apart from that, it's largely for you to understand where you are. However, if you're writing in grade 11, you're a US citizen. It's also known as Nmsqt, which is National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So yeah, those are the advantages. Next question, when is the next Psat after October? Psat happens only once a year, but it depends on the schools. Some schools write it in October, some write it in March. I'm not sure when Indus has decided to opt for it, and somebody from the school team can be able to help you out. Maybe you can drop them mail and check. I'm not sure if they've opted for October or March cycle. When is the coaching during school? Hi Rishika, it's happening on Fridays and Saturdays. I hope you all have received the mail. So there are certain time slots that's decided. I think it's Friday 3:30 to 5:30 and Saturday 2 to 4. That's when the session, the face-to-face offline coaching will happen for all the students in the school premise. Mr. Sunil, I joined late. How long is this program? Mr. Sunil, the program will run up until the student writes the March attempt. So it will continue until the March. Do you have any location close to Sajapura Road, Belandur Gate? And we are currently not operating offline outside of school. Offline is only happening in the school premise. If you would like to sign up directly, you can do it for the online program that we have. We have group programs, we have one-on-one programs, we have different options that you can opt for, but we are not operating offline. We are purely online as of now for the last 3 years, actually. So yeah, we have noted your name, Anvi. We'll try and reach out to you back again. And probably help you answer your queries. Another question from Mr. Suresh: how about subject-specific SAT like SAT, Math, etc.? Hey, thanks, Mr. Suresh, to bring this up. So there used to be something called subject SATs, like Mr. Suresh said, SAT, Math, SAT, SAT, Chemistry, SAT, Physics, which are no longer there. So they have been stopped by the College Board 2 years back, starting last year, March. The subject SATs have been stopped by the College Board. So there are no subject SATs now being offered. And hence, the AP exams become a lot more critical. If in case you're interested, you can write the AP exams. Because AP happens for different subjects, and that's a different thing. So we can probably have a webinar where we can talk about the entire APs in detail. And I think you can join that and understand more about the AP exams as well. Next, we have from Anvi, how long will the training be? Anvi, the training will continue until the student writes the March exam. So it will continue until that period. Another question from Ms. Usha. For SAT, is it 1 day per week, 2 hours on Saturday? No, it'll be 2 days per week, Ms. Usha. And I'm thinking you're talking about the school, right? In the school, it's 2 days. One is on a Friday and then on a Saturday, 2 hours each. So 4 hours per week. So I got a message from Rishika. Please send me the Psat diagnostic test. Sure, Rishika, we'll send you the Psat diagnostic test. Team, please note this down. Then I have another question from Nishwi. When will the resources for grade 9 be released? I didn't get the question, Nishwi, really. By resources, you mean the resources for Psat? If that's the case, you can visit the Khan Academy and you will get the resources. When you register for Psat, you also get few resources. So that's also something that you could look at. Another question from Rekha. For day scholars, how many offline options are available? How many offline options? For day scholars, we don't have the offline. As I said, we are not. So offline, we are only doing in the school premise. We don't have offline outside of school premise. Outside of school premise, it's going to be all online program. But in online, we have different options, one-on-one, group. You have all the options there. Next is Rajni. Any information on basic difference in SAT and AST exam pattern? Rajni, looks like you probably would have joined late for the meeting because we have had like 15-minute discussion on the SAT AST. We'll be sharing the recording with you. You can go over it. You will get the entire difference between these two exams. We have had a detailed discussion on that. Oh, great. Dipali has shared the diagnostic test link in the chat section. So I think some of the parents had asked, you can pick it up from here. Another question from Usha. If the child wanted to do both ST and ST, is it too much schedule? That's right, Usha. I think it might be too much. SAT and AP. Okay, yeah, Usha, SAT and AP are two different things, right? There's a different reason why you write an SAT. There's a different reason why you write an AP, right? It's very, very important to understand why we are doing what we are doing, right? Because time is an essence. That's the utmost important thing here, right? SAT, more of a mandatory thing. AP, more of a good to do thing, right? But at the same time, it's good for you to strengthen your profile, right? So that will require another discussion. As I said, we'll be doing another webinar on the APs. Please do join us for that. That'll give you more clarity in terms of why one should write AP and which are the APs that you should be thinking about writing, right? Is it too much for the child? Definitely, it's a lot of work, but it's important if you're looking at the top universities. The question, want to confirm Psat is for 9th graders alone. You have any prep program for same? No, Rajni, we don't recommend Psat prep program, or we don't even do it, because Psat is just for you to get an indicator where the child is, right? Even if you want to start prep in 9th grade, you should do it straight for the SAT, not towards the Psat. Next question. My daughter is in grade 11. When is the ideal time for her to write SAT or ACT? At the earliest possible, ma'am. Ideally, it should have been done by now. If it's not done, we should do it as soon as possible, right? So if they can write December, otherwise March, but they should do it as soon as possible, right? Most of the 11th graders would have already finished or in the process of finishing it. So please take it on utmost priority and make sure that the child sign up for the SAT HT. If not December, March, because if you look at it, May, the child will have exams, so they can't write. And then it straight goes to grade 12, which is quite late, right? So please make sure you do it at the earliest possible. Next, can we get the recording of the session? Definitely, Ms. Uma will be sharing the recording of the session. What are the timings for online classes? That's from Mr. Dhyan. Mr. Dhyan, we have different options for online classes. We have different batches. We have Saturday, Sunday morning batch, Saturday, Sunday evening batch. We have weekday evening batch. So there are almost about 4 or 5 options that we have. I've written down your name, and I'll request the team to also write down your name. We'll give you a call back and help you understand all the different options which are available. Another question from Miss Roma, is logical reasoning test was given today morning? Sorry, I am not aware of something like this, Miss Roma. Nothing has been given from our side today morning for sure. Another question, can we register with you now for taking SAT in March 2024? I believe this is, the child is in grade 9. So we would be starting another program, ma'am, with the school, but that's probably after a couple of months, maybe about 3 or 4 months later. So we will keep all the grade 9 parents informed about when we are starting this program for grade 9. As of now, we are starting it for grade 10th and grade 11 because they are of super priority at this point of time. Someone else is also asking the link for diagnostic. We have shared it in the chat section, ma'am. Dipali has shared it. Please, you can find it from there. How long is the SAT score valid? It's valid for 5 years. Can we get the recording, please? Definitely, we'll be sharing the recording. Okay, Dipali has shared the course fees, discounted fees. Smita Acharya, how long is the SAT score valid? It's valid for 5 years, ma'am. My child is in 9th grade. Where can we register for Psat prep? And do we have prep for ST and ST? I would not recommend you to prepare for Psat. I think prepare directly for SAT or ACT. You don't really have to prepare for Psat. Psat is just for, because Psat is not a score that is going to the college. So don't worry about it, right? So please don't worry about the Psat score at all. I think that's only for internally you to figure out where the child is. Right? So please don't worry about the Psat score so much. I think the prep should finally be towards SAT or ACT. Meenakshi, that was for ACER, logical reasoning. Okay, something else. How to register for SAT in December, Dorita? You need to go to the College Board website, and through that you have to register. I'm assuming you're talking about how to register for the exam. If you have to register for our preparation course, then Dipali, please note down the name. We'll give you a call back and we'll talk to you and explain you how you can register with us. Another question I have from Ms. Lata. How can I register for SAT or ACT prep? Great, Ms. Lata. We will reach out to you. You must have received a mail from the college, from the school itself. However, we have not shared it with the grade 9 student because we wanted to do it after maybe 1 or 2 months, 3 months. However, if the child is in grade 10th or 11th, we will give you a call back. We have noted down your name and we will explain you how you can register. You must have received a mail from the school end which has the payment details and everything, and also the batch timing and everything. So if you would like the child to enroll for the offline class, which is happening in the hostels, you could do it through that. Otherwise, we will give you a call back, and you can then we can explain you what are the days when the batches are happening, and then you can sign up for the SAT or ACT prep program. That's how it will happen. Great. Thanks, Meenakshi. Thank you, Rajdeep, a very detailed session. Thanks, Meenakshi. Thanks, Yasmin. Great. I see, there were almost about 60 people, and we still have about 50, 55 people in the webinar. That means, I think it was an informative one. And I hope it has helped you to understand more about ST, AST, and probably give a food for thought for you guys to go back and think about assimilate. Please remember one thing, time is an essence. Please plan it really, really well. That's my only suggestion. Doesn't really matter how you do it, when you do it, with whom you do it. The only important thing is please plan it really, really well. That's very, very important. And I see a lot of parents who are in grade 9, which is a great start. That means, you are a well-aware parent right now. So I think you have good time for the next 3 years. If you're trying to aim for those top universities, I think the key here is to be better prepared for all of these and make sure you are doing things at the right time. So that would be my last advice to all the parents. You've already taken the right step to attend this webinar in grade 9. That's amazing. And I think now it's only about planning it well for the next 3 years. Another question I have, can you please give me more info on Psat and Nmsqt? What kind of scholarships are available? Mr. Narayana, you can visit the College Board website, and there they give you all the details about the scholarships which are available on the Nmsqt. So it's called National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. It's available on the College Board website, College Board. That's the organization which conduct the SAT. However, it's only applicable if the child is a US citizen and if they're doing this exam in grade 11. Please note that. How to register for ACT in December? So for ACT, you have to visit act.org. That's the organization. And for SAT, you have to visit College Board. That's the organization. So for ACT, act.org. And for College Board, for SAT, it's College Board. So I think these are the organization. Ms. Dorita, send the links, please. Sure. I don't have the links readily available, unfortunately, but I've noted down your name. Dipali, can you note down ma'am's name, and we'll give you a call. Oh, okay. We got the links here. Thanks, team. So this is the link for the College Board, and we'll also give you a call and give you the link for the ACTs as well. Is there any difference in preparation for SAT, AST, science section, and SFL? Great question, Ms. Pooja. Yes, in our program, we will be helping students to prepare for both SAT and ACT. So we have incorporated additional classes for the ACT, essay, and the science section. So student will be prepared for those programs within the same fees, within the same program itself. You don't have to sign up for a different program for SAT or ACT. And we will help the child to take a call whether a child should do an SAT or the child should do an ACT. So you don't have to worry about that. We will be taking care of it. Great. Level of difficulty. Ms. Dorita, I think I will share the recording with you because we have had a detailed discussion with regards to the level of difficulty of ST, how they're different from each other. I think that will help you to understand more about ST, and then after that we can take questions from you one-on-one once you've gone through this webinar. I hope that helps. Thanks. As a 9th grader, Lata, the child can start preparing for Psat. As I said, you can go to Khan Academy resource, start with the reading. Reading is very, very critical. Let me tell you another thing, right? So for most of the Indian students, for most of the Asian students, we do well in maths, but we struggle with English. So if you're a grade 9 student, if you're a parent of grade 9, one thing that you should start preparing now is the reading section. Start reading good articles with the kids. Start reading Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, because in the ACT or in SAT, they will have topic essays, the passages from history, geographies, world literature, world history, literature. So you will have topics from all across these zones, social science, sciences passage. So it's important for the child to start reading, because I think that's one thing that you can't improve in short span of time. So if there is one thing that the child can start working on when they're in grade 9 is to improve their reading skills, reading comprehension skills, not just reading, but also comprehending it, understand the perspective of the author, and everything. I think that becomes super critical for grade 9 parents. Great. So I think I've taken most of the question, and we've also crossed the time limit now. With that, I would like to thank the school authority for giving us this opportunity to present in front of all the parents. And I hope it was an informational session, and I hope we are able to give you the detailed information as well. If you liked it, please help us get to more people. We will be sharing the recording of this webinar with you. Feel free to share it among all the other Indus parents that you are in touch with. It'll help you understand. It'll help the other parents also understand, because if they have missed it for whatever reason, they could also go through the recording. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for all the parents for joining in on Saturday morning. Thank you.